Hey folks, today I'm going to show you my first couple of modifications that I've done to my Colt 70 Series Classic model. You probably already see them, but we're going to zoom down here up front. The first modifications that I've done were pretty simple modifications, but I'll get more detailed once we zoom in up close. All right. As you can see, one of the first things I did was I took the older Colt medallion grips I had on there. I took those off because they were just too thick. They didn't really look that good anyway. They're not in great shape. Put a set of these slim Ed Brown rosewood type grips on there. I don't know if you can see them very good, but I've had them on several guns. They're real slim on either side. Changed out the bushings and the screws, and I've got smaller hands, so that really helps me get to the trigger and get a good grip on the gun. Another thing that I had done already was replace this thumb safety with a wide EGW thumb safety. Do that to every one of them. I've decided I'm going to keep the build pretty classic. I'm not going to do a beaver tail or anything like that. So if you'll look here, I used, and just so you know, gun is empty, nothing in the chamber. I used the cylinder and slide spur type hammer on it. It's shorter than the factory hammer, so I don't really have to worry about any slide bite or hammer bite coming from this one. I used the cylinder and slide hammer, which is an ultralight type hammer. You can see it's skeletonized in there. You can see it's milled out, it's really light. I also used their ultralight sear. It came in a pack. I used the factory connector or disconnect that I had in it. I tuned the sear spring. I'm using a 19-pound mainspring, and I recut the hammer hooks just to make sure they were trued up, and they were. Anything I've ever bought from Cylinder and Slide has just been outstanding. But the hammer hooks were already true. They were already to the 18 thousandths length that I always like. And then I recut the sear nose. If you remember on one of my gunsmithing videos that I did on a 1911, I use a Power Custom jig. It's the Series 1 stoning fixture. I raised it 4 clicks and cut the primary angle, raised it 20 clicks, cut the secondary angle, polished everything with some porcelain stones, and put it in the gun. I did some polishing internally, especially the trigger track where the trigger bow rides. I polished my sear spring. That's one thing a lot of people overlook, is polishing that sear spring itself. I also polished the inside where the hammer rides inside the frame. I polished that. Where the sear pivots inside the frame, I polished that on either side. And I just did a good polish job on it. Also on the hammer strut, I polished the hammer strut, the base of the hammer strut where it rides on the mainspring cap, and I polished the mainspring cap. So just those things right there have brought this down to a really nice weight. And on camera, we're gonna do some trigger pulls. I'm gonna use this old trigger pull gauge I got. It's somewhat accurate. It comes in just a little bit heavier than my digital pull gauge, but let's pull it and see what I'm getting. If you can see on there, it's coming in right at 2.5. That's 2.5 pounds. Let's see. Coming in again, just under 2.5 pounds. Let's do another one. Just under 2.5 pounds. And one more for good measure. Just under 2.5 pounds. It's roughly a 2 1/4 trigger pull. And it breaks nice and crisp. You're not gonna be able to tell it on camera, but it's a factory trigger. I haven't changed it out for a lighter trigger. I haven't changed the disconnect for a lighter disconnect. And I really haven't tuned that sear spring all that much. It all has to do with the sear nose and the hammer hooks. So you watch the take up. That's all the take up there is in the trigger, and that's from the factory. then you're gonna have a nice crisp brake. There is no grit, there's no pre-travel, the term slips my mind, but it's just, you take the slack out and it brakes. There's nothing else. So you're gonna see the reset, nice and short, and here's another brake. So those are the first two modifications I've done to the gun. Thank y'all for commenting on what y'all want to see me do. The next modification I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go real old school on this. I'm not even gonna checker the front strap. I'm gonna stipple the front strap. I've stippled several guns in the past, and they turn out really good. Before checkering was popular, stippling was popular. So I'm going to stipple the front strap, put me a nice border across the top, a nice border across the bottom, and then I'm probably going to bevel the hard edges of this grip safety right here, because if I can round those off and bevel them nice and smooth, that'll help, because that grip safety really digs into my thumb right there. But anyway, that's the first modification I've done to the gun. Just letting you know I'm going to keep it a classic build, and we'll check in later and let you see what the front strap stippling with the border looks like. But thank y'all for watching. Have a good night.